Beneath California's glowing cities and golden hills, something vast and potentially dangerous is stirring. You can't see it from the surface.
We have our fair share of volcanoes here in California, but they are very different from the types of volcanoes in Hawaii and a lot more dangerous.
The sun-baked Mojave, the quiet peaks of the Sierra Nevada, even the bustling streets of San Francisco give little sign. But far below, ancient forces are awake and in motion. Over the last months, the ground beneath California has begun to tremble with a rhythm that experts can't ignore. More than 2,000 small earthquakes forming an unusual swarm, each one a subtle signal from deep within the earth. The Long Valley Caldera, a massive ancient bowl left by a super eruption over 760,000 years ago, is pulsing again with renewed emissions of volcanic gases. Magma, mostly silent for generations, appears once more on the move. Stretches of land that were deemed quiet now fracture, leak and rumble, raising questions among both residents and scientists. While some worry and speculation circulate, the reality is that small earthquakes are still occurring more frequently than before the unrest began in February 2024, and volcanic gases continue to be released. Across North America, 21 volcanoes have exhibited varying degrees of unrest, reminders that this is a continent alive at its tectonic seams. There is genuine uncertainty, not panic, among scientists as public data becomes harder to access and budgets for research are threatened. Some websites have limited access or gone dormant. Researchers report greater difficulty getting real-time updates. The stakes are high, as areas long believed dormant show signs of life. This is a story about deep forces, about the hazards written into the land, and the importance of vigilance as California again stands on a geological knife's edge. Chapter 1. The California Earthquake Surge. Imagine waking in the early stillness of dawn, the familiar ceiling above your bed subtly trembling. You know, logically, that it's just a small earthquake, nothing broken, no shattered glass, but your heart pounds nonetheless. Then, as you drift back to sleep, it happens again. In the days and weeks that follow, the tremors become almost routine. Some days pass with barely a stir, while others see clusters of shaking, rattling windows and nerves across neighborhoods. This scenario isn't fiction for Californians in 2024. The state is seeing a persistent uptick in seismic unrest, especially in areas that had long seemed stable. By May, the number of recorded earthquakes, mostly small and moderate, some in unusual locations, has climbed into the thousands. For those familiar with California's seismic history, it feels different, both in scale and in places affected. Traditionally, most shakes clustered near well-known faults like the San Andreas or Hayward. Now, however, swarms are appearing across broader regions, sparking new geological questions. Some communities find themselves dealing with this relentless activity for the first time, asking, is this a prelude to volcanic resurgence or part of California's ever-changing tectonic rhythm? Seismologists speculate about fluids moving through fault networks and, in some cases, deeper causes such as rising magma. Each new tremor reminds residents that the pulse beneath their feet is real and that the region's reputation for seismic drama is still well earned. Chapter 2. Long Valley Caldera Awakens. Few Californian landmarks are as quietly ominous as the Long Valley Caldera. To most, it's a scenic area southeast of Yosemite, a place for hiking and relaxation. Yet beneath its quiet surface, this massive depression marks the site of one of the largest volcanic eruptions on the continent's record, occurring about 760,000 years ago. For decades, the caldera's activity was minor, occasional gas vents, sporadic minor quakes. That changed in 2024. Carbon dioxide began venting in greater quantities through hidden fumaroles. Sulfur-laden odors wafted through meadows, subtle but unmistakable. Patchy tree death and odd mineral stains caught the attention of locals and rangers. And crucially, swarms of earthquakes, over 2,000 since February, clustered beneath the caldera, their depth and pattern hinting at renewed volcanic dynamics. Instruments have measured ground uplift in places, sometimes several centimeters over short spans. While the term supervolcano is technically correct, scientists stress that the current unrest remains within the bounds of past periods of minor activity. Still, the combination of increased quakes, measurable ground deformation, and more vigorous gas release has moved Long Valley into sharper scientific focus. Communities such as Mammoth Lakes keep watch, their lives intertwined with the caldera's mood. Researchers explain that while a catastrophic super-eruption is exceedingly unlikely on human timescales, even modest eruptions could have serious local consequences. Scientists monitor the area closely, vigilant but not alarmist, knowing that knowledge and preparation are the best response to nature's uncertainty. Chapter 3: Gases from the Deep. Volcanoes often speak first in the language of gases. Clouds of carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide emerge, sometimes unseen, sometimes with a sharp tang in the air that unsettles humans and wildlife alike. Across California's volcanic belt, scientists use sensors and handheld detectors to monitor these emissions, noting changes that could signal deeper unrest. In the past year, increased gas emissions have been measured at Long Valley and other locations, raising concerns. While there are reports of wildlife affected by these gases, direct connections to recent events remain under investigation. Scientists pay close attention to such signals, as large changes in gas release can indicate magma moving upward, a possible step toward future eruptive activity. Monitoring is continuous, sensitive not only to sudden spikes, but also to gradual trends. Gases can poison water sources and impact ecosystems, but for now, the largest health concerns are being managed by timely alerts and public information. Residents in affected areas are advised to watch for unusual animal behavior, dead zones in forests or meadows, and odd smells, all of which may indicate accumulating gases or other environmental changes. The interpretation of these signals remains complex. Not every burst of gas means an eruption is imminent. Some emissions are expressions of deep geological breathing, part of the planet's normal recycling. But together with earthquake swarms and ground uplift, rising gases form a trio of evidence scientists cannot afford to overlook. Chapter 4: Earthquake Hotspots in Unexpected Places. California is no stranger to ground shaking, but the landscape of seismicity is changing. New sensors in places like the Modoc Plateau, Owens Valley, and parts of the Central Valley are picking up swarms of earthquakes in areas that were previously considered relatively quiet. For geologists, the implications are significant. Some quakes track along old volcanic fields and ancient calderas, features whose activity was thought to be long extinguished. While most of these quakes are too small for people to feel, they hint at stress and movement deep within the crust. Updated technologies, including satellite INSAR and borehole monitoring, reveal that California's underground is laced with more complexity than previously mapped. Microquakes zip through old lava domes, groundwater wells fluctuate in unexpected ways, and subtle changes in land elevation are sometimes detected. The result is a new understanding. Every square mile of California's landscape carries risk, and areas thought safe may still sit atop hidden hazards. Emergency planners advise communities to be informed, not fearful, to update emergency plans and stay attuned to regional updates, recognizing that even a region's quiet history is not a guarantee for the future. Chapter 5: Volcano Chains Across North America. California's volcanoes do not awaken alone. Across North America's western rim, from Alaska down through British Columbia, the Cascades into the Rockies, and as far south as Mexico, volcanoes are part of a connected geologic chain. In 2024, Scientists have documented unrest or eruption at more than 20 major volcanoes across the continent, each with its own local character, but all linked by the tectonic forces of the Pacific margin. To understand this pattern, you need to look deep. Beneath the crust, plumes of superheated mantle rock periodically rise, injecting fresh energy into volcanic fields. When one area becomes active, it sometimes sends stress waves that ripple through the intricate network of faults and magma bodies, waking other systems hundreds of kilometers away. This isn't just theory. Recent models have demonstrated how pressure can propagate along faults and influence volcanic activity far afield. While each volcano responds individually, the overall pattern can be like a chain reaction, a reminder that what happens in California is rarely isolated from events elsewhere. Scientists see these connections as vital clues for anticipating large-scale changes, urging binational and regional cooperation in monitoring and readiness planning. Chapter 6. Hidden Magma in Urban California. For the millions living in California's cities, the thought of a volcanic eruption may seem more like fiction than a practical concern. Yet modern imaging and borehole data confirm that ancient lava flows and buried volcanic structures lie beneath metropolitan areas, particularly in the Bay Area. In recent surveys, deep-seated tremors and subtle heat signatures have been detected beneath zones like San Francisco. While no active volcanic eruption is underway, these cryptic signs, small changes in temperature, minor releases of steam, and clusters of microquakes suggest that even the most urbanized locations are not wholly immune to the forces shaping the broader landscape. City planners and engineers, while not raising alarms, have begun looking at protocols for worst-case volcanic scenarios, including ashfall and heating of underground infrastructure. Emergency managers stress that earthquake preparedness remains the top priority, but they do not rule out the need for volcanic plans. The evolving science underscores that the city's surface calm can mask a complex, shifting subterranean world, one worth respecting and studying carefully. Chapter 7. Ancient Scars, Modern Dangers. California's surface tells a story for those who look closely. The quiet chains of Mono Inyo craters, the broad lava fields of Coso, and the remote highlands of Medicine Lake all reveal chapters from a violent geological past. Archaeological and geological evidence show that these places experienced powerful eruptions, with fire and ash shaping human and animal migration patterns, sometimes forcing entire communities to move. Modern technology has allowed scientists to peer beneath the old scars. Seismic imaging and geochemical studies reveal that many ancient volcanic centers still harbor deep magma reservoirs, slowly replenishing far beneath the surface, fed by the Earth's persistent heat. This does not mean a major eruption is inevitable or imminent, but it serves as a sobering reminder. Even seemingly dead volcanoes are part of living systems, with pressures that can build for hundreds or thousands of years before erupting again. Today's researchers draw lessons from artifacts, sediment layers, and infrared surveys, adding context to a landscape always shaped by renewal and risk. Chapter 8. The Data Blackout. For decades, California has been at the forefront of public hazard monitoring. Seismic data, volcanic gas levels, and ground deformation maps have traditionally been accessible to all, updated in near real time, and shared between agencies, scientists, and the public. Lately, however, there has been a shift. Several federal and state websites have reduced their updates, placed archives behind paywalls, or closed altogether, citing budget cuts or cybersecurity concerns. Scientists report difficulties accessing once standard time series data, and delays in the publication of new hazard maps are now common. Some whisper of efforts to avoid public panic or to protect sensitive real estate values, though official explanations often center on resources. This new opacity has consequences. Researchers turn to alternative channels, private collaborations, encrypted shared drives, and independent monitoring with mixed results. Freedom of information requests go unanswered, and some regional emergency managers report they are less equipped than before. The outcome is a shared uncertainty. Without up-to-date information, the public and responders alike face more confusion and risk at the very time that timely information is most needed. Chapter 9. Dormancy is a dangerous illusion. To call a volcano dormant brings a measure of comfort, reassurance that the land is safe and dependable. Yet, as California's sleeping peaks begin to stir, the limits of that term become clear. Studies have shown that dormancy can last decades, centuries, or even longer, but it can end far more quickly than the public assumes. Recent surveys around volcanoes like Mount Shasta and Lassen Peak, as well as Oregon's South Sister, reveal evidence of subtle inflation, new degassing, and ecosystem changes. Scientists now recognize that climate change, through shifting water tables, melting glaciers, and altered rainfall patterns, can affect underground pressures, hastening the timeline for renewed eruption in some cases. Soil uplift, animal migration to higher ground, and irregular spikes of gas or heat are all noted as potential early warning signs. Modern monitoring has revealed dozens of such reawakening events in volcanic zones previously labeled inactive. The lesson is clear. Geological history is not predestination, and vigilance, not complacency, is warranted wherever volcanoes lie sleeping. Chapter 10. The Ring of Fire tightens. California's destiny is inextricably linked with the Pacific's volatile margin, the so-called Ring of Fire. This 40,000-kilometer belt of volcanoes and fault zones carries the majority of the world's eruptions and earthquakes, extending from South America through North America and across to Japan and Indonesia. Recent synchronized activity at distant points along the ring, eruptions in Alaska, swarms in Japan, and major quakes in Chile, raise concerns among scientists about larger patterns at work. These events suggest a level of tectonic communication stretching across the world's largest ocean, with energy transfers sometimes measurable across continents. California's own unrest is thus set within a broader context, one where local hazards can have global echoes. A significant eruption or quake here could, through complex feedbacks, impact everything from air travel and shipping to economic stability and climatic systems. International cooperation in monitoring and response is not just prudent, but essential, as history shows that no region is truly isolated on the Ring of Fire. Chapter 11. Soil, Pollution, and Renewal. Out of volcanic destruction springs unique opportunities. Fields covered in ash can, with time, become among the world's richest farmland. Volcanic soils are highly sought after for their fertility. In places like the Sacramento Delta, traces of ancient ash have helped build agricultural productivity for generations. Yet, the process of renewal is not without cost. Modern eruptions threaten to release toxic gases and particulates, sulfur dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, and heavy metals such as mercury and arsenic. These pollutants could linger in the air and water, making recovery longer and food production more difficult. The cleanup and restoration could take years, with human and economic costs spread across communities. It is a double-edged cycle. Volcanic activity brings the promise of eventual bounty, but only after hardship and adaptation. Understanding this balance is key to society's ongoing relationship with California's restless land. Chapter 12. Subduction zones on alert. Beyond California's borders, immense geological forces are at work. The Cascadia subduction zone, stretching from northern California up to Canada, is a source of scientific concern. Subduction here means that one plate slides beneath another, building pressures that can someday be released as huge earthquakes, megathrusts, and possibly volcanic events. Historical examples like the 2011 Japan Tohoku disaster and the 1960 Chile quake show just how devastating such events can be. Tsunamis, ground rupture, and ground shifts lasting minutes are possible. When southerly volcanic pressures rise in California, some scientists consider whether stress could travel northward, compounding regional risks. Ongoing research connects patterns in slow or silent quakes, periods of quiet, and bursts of activity all up and down the western seaboard. It is a vast system, tied together by the relentless movement of the Earth, and California sits at one of its most active junctures. Chapter 13: Microplates and Breaking Giants. California's coast was once thought to be controlled by a small number of vast tectonic plates. Recent research, however, has revealed the importance of microplates, smaller fragments such as the Gorda and Monterey plates, moving and shifting as the broader Pacific plate splinters. Where 3 or more plates meet, at so-called triple junctions, the Earth's crust is especially prone to tension and release. These hotspots drive localized earthquakes and, occasionally, volcanic activity. While the process of forming or splitting tectonic plates takes thousands to millions of years, even subtle changes can influence the day-to-day risk residents face. Monitoring these microplates helps scientists refine hazard maps and anticipate where ground movement might surprise us next. It's a reminder that even the solid, unmoving coastlines change slowly but inexorably over time. Chapter 14: Volcanoes Rewrite the Map. A major volcanic eruption in California would be transformative. Historic examples elsewhere, the creation of Crater Lake in Oregon, the Long Valley eruption that left tephra as far as Nebraska, show the scale of change possible. Rivers can be rerouted, valleys buried, entire forest landscapes incinerated. If a volcanic event of such size were to occur today, consequences for infrastructure, agriculture, and cultural landmarks would be enormous. Local and national planners regularly update mapping and mitigation strategies, using lessons from both ancient and modern events to imagine and practice responses to possible scenarios. The possibility remains remote in the near future, but the lesson endures. When volcanoes erupt, they do not just damage, they transform, erasing some stories while creating room for new ones. Chapter 15: The Domino Effect. Natural disasters do not always arrive alone. An eruption, for example, could trigger landslides, dam rivers, or ignite wildfires. Ash plumes could disrupt air travel, hinder first responders, and choke supply routes. Power outages and water shortages could spread rapidly, multiplying the effects of each initial event. This domino effect is why modern emergency training in California now includes multi-crisis scenarios. Drills and simulations prepare for situations in which multiple hazards unfold at the same time. The hope and the challenge is that planning stays one step ahead of nature's complexity. Chapter 16: The Edge of Survival. California stands not just at the edge of a continent, but at the precipice of its next geological chapter. Earthquakes surge, volcanoes hint at awakening, research grows more urgent even as some data sources become more elusive. The greatest danger is not in the ground, but in the human tendency to delay or downplay uncomfortable truths. The land itself tells stories of renewal, upheaval, and resilience. Each chapter has its lessons, about preparation, about humility before nature, about using every resource of science to anticipate what comes next. The clock is already ticking. Whether California is ready for what lies ahead will depend as much on vigilance and action as on the unpredictable cycles of its restless land. Stay informed to keep pace with each tremor, discovery, and official update. In California, each day adds a new page to the ongoing narrative, and the next one could change everything we know.